Welcome back to Lightstand Entertainment. D here. This video is the first in a series, well hopefully it'll be a series, where we'll be talking about horror movies because, dude, it's like the best time of year. It's October, the leaves are changing, it's starting to get dark earlier in the day. It's time to sit down and watch some horror movies. It's October, for Christ's sakes, alright? Got to celebrate Halloween in the best fashion, and one of the best ways to get you in the mood is watching a lot of horror movies. I watch horror movies throughout the entire year, but I indulge a lot more during this time of the year for obvious reasons. So in these videos we're going to talk about horror movies, some older ones, some more obscure, some more well-known. That way you can maybe check out a horror movie based on one of these videos that you haven't seen before. Keep in mind, I'm a huge horror movie nut, so I'm more forgiving for aspects of the story in horror movies. Like, you can watch horror movies with a non-horror movie fan, and they'll be sitting there, well, why is this girl doing this? Why are they doing this when they should be doing this? And I always say the same thing. I'm like, you're asking too many fucking questions. It's a horror movie. It's the closest equivalent in film form to a roller coaster ride. You got your ups, downs, your shrieks, your laughs, and then ride's over. Plain simple. But I love it. Love them. So the first one we're going to talk about is a random one. Just in fact rewatched it last night. We're going to talk about Texas Chainsaw from 2013. For those keeping track at home, that is the 7th film in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise that began with Tobe Hooper's classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just to freshen you up real quick, if you're not too familiar with the series, like I said, the first one, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper, he came back years later in the 80s to make Part 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, starring the late great Dennis Hopper. Great film. Third film was called Leatherface. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3 had great genre people like Ken Foray in it, and it also had, what's his butt? Viggo Mortensen, that's right, in an early role. Then we have number 4, the infamous Part 4, which is, I believe when Kim Henkel came back, he was one of the co-writers of the first one, where I believe this was the first time he came back to the franchise with the 4th film, which was called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. It had a few different titles. This one of the franchise is rather infamous because it stars Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. And it was well documented for years. They tried to distance themselves from this film for obvious reasons when you watch it. But still, it's a cheap horror movie. You did it. Stand by your work, but whatever. And then number 5, there was another break there, and that's when Michael Bay's company Platinum Dunes got the rights to the franchise, and they did the remake, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one starring Jessica Biel. Yeah, not very good. Didn't love it or hate it, but it had a lot of problems with it. And then the 6th film is called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which is by far, just in my opinion, the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Yes, even worse, in my opinion, than number 4. Because at least number 4 has camp value. I'm at least entertained laughing at it. Number 6, The Beginning, is just fucking stupid, and that's all I want to say about it. So, once again, we had a few-year break, and Platinum Dunes, thank God we're done with it, because Platinum Dunes are just, their mission is to remake classic horror movies that we all love and turn them into just terrible tripe. I mean, look at their Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, Friday the 13th remake, Nightmare on Elm Street remake, blah, 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 blah. They're awful. So Lionsgate got the rights, or Twisted Pictures, I believe. Anyway, and it was released by Lionsgate anyway. The 7th, technically, film in the franchise, the one I'm talking about, Texas Chainsaw. It was originally released, like I said, in 2013 as Texas Chainsaw 3D. So you best believe they were using the 3D technology to have that chainsaw going into your face like every 10 minutes, but Texas Chainsaw. I dug it. It was an interesting choice what they did. I see why they did it. With number 7, they chose to ignore 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and literally bridge off of just the very first movie. You get this during the opening credits of Texas Chainsaw, because when the opening credits are rolling out, they're showing pretty much scenes in order, pretty much giving you everything that happened in Tobe Hooper's original film. And basically the film opens up with the lynch mob like showing up at the house, burning it down. Of course, Leatherface, we don't find out until later, but yeah, he survived. And there's a somewhat convoluted plot line involving like a girl, the lead, played by Alexandra Daddario, inheriting this house that she didn't know. She was a Sawyer, and she inherited this house, and of course Leatherface is in the house, and he starts killing people, and it's a very simple movie. Like I said, it's a little convoluted with the side stories, with the family tree, so to speak, but once Leatherface gets to doing what he's doing, it's a lot of fun. It was produced for $20 million. It made $47.2 in the theaters, so it made its money back, because these types of films have the built-in fan base. Yeah, it's not a lot of them, like Marvel-size movie fan bases, but us horror movie fans, we're very we stick true. We'll show up. You're gonna make another one, even if it sucks. We're at least gonna show up and check it out. That's how invested we are with the film series and the characters. One little interesting tidbit for the film geeks out there that I personally dug was it brought back two actors and an actress from previous installments in the series. It brought back, they're all in small parts, and all their parts is they're a part of the Sawyer family. So a couple of them you only see for a few minutes at the beginning of the film. The actress you only see in a flashback later in the film. But they bring back Bill Moseley, who genre fans know this guy's amazing. Horror fans love Bill Moseley. He played the infamous Chop Top in Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Quite the role. He is forever Chop Top. Another one they brought back was, before he passed away a year or two ago, Gunnar Hansen, who of course played the original Leatherface in the original film. So he showed up in this film as well, which I thought was cool. And the great Marilyn Burns, did I say it right? Yep, Marilyn Burns, who played Sally in the original Tobe Hooper classic, the only character that survived her encounter with the Sawyer clan. The final girl, so to speak. She comes back for an extended cameo, and I thought that was really cool. One of the things I really loved about this installment in the series was the actual look of Leatherface. One problem I had, especially with the remake and the prequel, the Platinum Doom films, was they basically made Leatherface, he looked like a fucking professional wrestler. Like, when you looked at the body build of Leatherface, he literally looked like the Undertaker's brother Kane wearing the mask. I mean, I just hated that. And one thing I love about the latest one, Texas Chainsaw, I love the look of Leatherface for a couple of reasons. Number one, he doesn't look like a fucking roid-raging wrestler. He looks like a redneck hick, which is what Leatherface and his family are. Imagine that. So it was like the first time we got Leatherface with a big old gut, and I loved that. I thought I was like, why hasn't anybody done this for a while? Just great idea. And there's one particular scene in the film that I love that adds a lot to the character of Leatherface, in my opinion, and that is, of course, you know Leatherface, he takes his name because he takes the skin off people, takes people's faces off, and he wears them as his own, sews like bits together and wears it as his own. It's very lovely, very pretty. There's a point in the film Texas Chainsaw where he's getting a new mask, and instead of just putting it on, people are going to get grossed out about it, but this is a great scene. He takes out like this thread and needle and opens up his mouth and literally sews the mask to his face through his mouth. Like, it was always like the character of Leatherface was hiding behind this mask, and just adding that little element added an element to his character where it's truly the mask is becoming a part of him. Like in the past films, He never was seen without his mask. If people touched his mask, he would freak out, and this greater emphasized that feeling of his character. It truly became a part of him. In fact, in an interview, the original Leatherface Gunnar Hansen, who had a cameo in the film, he saw them filming that scene, and he sat there and thought to himself, he's like, God damn it, that's such a good idea. Why the fuck didn't we think of that back in the 70s when we were originally doing this film? So it was really cool. It's a fun film for you gore hounds out there. It pays off. You're going to be happy. Once again, a lot of the fans of the series hate this one because fans generally hate it when, you know, a new film comes out in the series and it's like, oh, by the way, all this shit that you've watched and loved over the years, it never happened anymore, i.e. Star Wars of late. But in this case, I give it a pass because they took it in an interesting direction, for me at least. You know, as interesting as a slasher horror film can get, gory movie can get. And I just had a good time with it, and I tried something new, and it was fun. So check it out. Take it with a grain of salt, but check it out. There's some good stuff in there. Once again, this is Deviant D for Lightstand Entertainment. Wishing you a happy Halloween. I know it's a bit off, but I'm going to be saying it all month. We'll bring up some more horror movies to talk about soon, and check you later.